Before I used to be like, oh, I don't want to spend money at an airport. The food is expensive, but please, you only travel once. So airport food is always in my budget. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Eniola, but you can call me the Global MC. I talk about the international student experience. So if you're an international student or you have international friends, feel free to share this video with them, share my channel with them. I'd appreciate all the likes, all the comments, all the subscriptions that I can get. If this video, if or any of the videos on my channels help you in any way, please let me know, comment, and refer me to all the other international students that you know, okay? Wonderful. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my top travel tips for international students, because we all know it can be a little crazy navigating all of the different airports in America and around the world. So this video is for you, okay? Let's get the show on the road. My first tip is making sure that all of your travel documents are valid. And so you need a valid means of identification. This could be your international passport, or if you're already in America and you have a driver's license, you can also use that as your means of identification. You cannot use your student ID card, only one that has been federally issued by either your home country, so that's your international passport, or an American state government, that could be your driver's license. So those two are the most popular means of identification that you can use. Something else to note is that while driver's licenses are okay, you want to make sure that you're not traveling close to when you have to renew your driver's license, because in that case you won't be able to use it until you get the physical hard copy of the new license with you. And something else you want to know is that make sure that your passport is also unexpired when you're traveling. Another thing that came to mind the other day that I want to share with you is number 2 tip, and it also relates to number 1, is go early to whatever airport you're going to. And I say this because one time I forgot my ID card at home, and I was in the airport already checking in for my flight, so trying to check it, and I realized that I was not with my driver's license, and so I had to go back home and then come back. I ended up missing that flight because I went back home twice. The first time I forgot my makeup purse and I went back to get it, but then the second time I realized that, oh, my driver's license is also not here. Then I went back, and then at that time it was just too late and I ended up missing that flight. So I don't want this to happen to you, okay? I have learned for every international student out there, make sure that one on your checklist for traveling, you're always checking for, okay, am I with my passport? Am I with my driver's license? Very, very important. So the second tip, going early will save you stress, because you'll know what to do. You'll just be relaxed instead of rushing and being out of breath by the time you get to your plane. Some people like the hustle and bustle of rushing. I personally do not. If you're like, let's take all the chances in this world, then you can do that. But I would just rather be at peace with God and with man, okay? So my tip personally will be to go early, and also research the airport you're going to be flying out of, especially if you've never flown out of there before. If it's a smaller airport, maybe you don't have to go as early as you would have to go if you're going to a bigger airport in a bigger city. My airport, South Bend International Airport, is a pretty small airport, and I don't think I've ever had more than 10 people in front of me in line during the security check-in. So those are some of the things that you want to consider when you want to determine how early you're going to go to the airport. And for international travel, you also want to make sure that you have the visas for the places you're going to be visited. So if you're going to Canada, for instance, you want to make sure that you have already applied for a Canadian visa and have gotten it in your passport. If you're going to the UK, the same. Make sure that you apply for whichever country you're going to visit and have the visa in your passport. Something else you want to note is to make sure that your F1 visa is also current and not expiring for when you want to come back into the US, and so to avoid stories that touch. Something else you also want to bring along with you is your I-20, and this is especially useful for international travel. Do not travel abroad without your I-20, and make sure that you have a travel signature on the I-20. My third tip for travel, whether that's international or local, is to check out what transport options there are from or to the airport. I personally use either Uber to the airport, or I drive and park my car if it's a one-day trip, because I don't want to pay my life ending in parking fees. So if I'm going for one day, I've only done this once, I park overnight and then I come back. And so long-term pack, it was like $10. So for 2 days, it was $20, which is not bad, because Uber fare was going to be like $15 just to go, and then $15 when I'm coming back, so that's $30. So the garage made sense for me for that trip. On other trips, I've used Uber to the airport and then Uber back home once I arrive back home. But for the travel itself, it depends on how long you're going to be staying and how big of a city it is. If it's a city like DC, New York, Chicago, that has some form of reliable public transport, you want to check in with that and see what the timelines for the places you're going to be visiting is before you even travel at all. So you can make up your mind of, oh, am I going to be using public transport to get around in this city? Or, oh, am I going to have to order an Uber or order a Lyft? Or am I going to have to rent a car? Depending on how long you're going to be in town for, those are some of the things that you want to use to factor or weigh whether or not you want to rent a car, or whether you're just going to, use Uber for, if you're just going out once, Uber makes sense. If you're going out a lot, then you probably want to check in with renting a car. If you want to save money, you also want to make sure that in the process of saving money, you're not wasting your time, because that's something public transport can do for you. Waste your time. It will get you there cheap, but it might waste your time. So those are some of the things you want to consider. The other day I was in, DC, and to get from DC where I was to BWI, the airport in Maryland, by road, by regular car, it was going to be about over an hour, but by train, it was going to be about 14 minutes from Union Station. So the train was actually shorter and cheaper than going by road or by going by car. So those are some of the things you want to check in and make a good decision about, okay? So back to the airport, security checks, number 4. Number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Security checks. You want to make sure that this goes as smoothly as it can for you. So number 1, don't wear anything that you have to be removing 1,000 times. Just wear something that's easily removable and easy to put back on. For instance, sneakers. Don't wear shoes that you laced up the whole thing. Don't waste your time. Don't waste my time. Let's all move on, okay? Something else you want to keep in mind is some airports have scanners where you do not have to bring out your laptop. So depending on what the airport has, sometimes you may have to bring out your laptop and sometimes you may not have to. So making sure that your laptop is in a place where you can easily access it and not have to bring out all the things from your bag before you get to your laptop, okay? So that's one thing. That's another thing you want to keep in mind. And then lastly, in terms of security checks, is the amount of liquids that are allowed in your check-in bag. It's about 100 milliliters, I believe, 100 ml that you can bring on board with your carry-on bag. So you want to make sure that you're not exceeding that. One day, I mistakenly brought one of my big bottles of perfume that I really liked. But thankfully, the gate agent was very gracious. Not the gate agent, the person at the security check was gracious because he could see that the contents were below 100 mil, below 100 ml. So he allowed me to take it. So those are some of the things you want to be careful about: your perfumes, body lotions, your skincare. What else? Your toothpaste as well. In fact, they took my toothpaste. Can you imagine? They wanted me to be going around with smelly mouth. Can you imagine? So make sure you bring, the smaller versions of all of those things if you need them. Number 5, you want to check the luggage allowance on the airline that you're flying with, because some people have like maybe 5 pounds less or 5 pounds more. So you want to be very precise when you're packing so that you're not busy like me at Heathrow on the floor trying to rearrange all the things because all of a sudden your bag has carried weights that you know nothing about. You're like, who put this there? I don't know. It's not me. But anyway, you want to make sure that you know what the weight allowance is and that you also have a weight measure. So in your house, so you can measure your bag before you get to the airport to avoid stressful situations. So you can have carry-on, you can have personal items, you can have checked-in bags, depending on what kind of ticket you have. Some airlines, for instance, Southwest, you have 2 checked bags with your ticket. But for many others, you do not. You have to pay for your bags separate from the ticket price. So that's something you want to keep in mind. I've seen some tickets online where they'll be like, oh, the cheapest amount, the cheapest ticket. But by the time you finish adding all your bags to it, you finish adding everything, the price has gone all the way to heaven. So you want to make sure that nobody's trying to steal your money, okay? Wonderful. What else? Carry on, checked in, and personal items. And for easy movements in the airport, once you're checked in, you also want to download the airline's app, especially if you're not checking in any bags. If you have the app on your phone, you can just go straight to security because you're also going to have your ticket on your phone and you do not have to print it out. So that's a benefit of downloading the airline's app. I'm not really a huge fan of downloading apps, honestly, but having the apps that I have on my phone have been helpful with checking if, there's a gate change, or checking the time for boarding, or checking my seat assignments, all of those things, and they're very helpful. And they just help you breeze through the airport. The other day, I did not travel with any checked-in bags. I did not travel with any carry-ons. I just took my school bag, my backpack, and I went all day, and it was just a great experience to not stop or to be wheeling anything around. I was like, this is the life, just a personal item. I mean, I traveled for only 1 day, so it made sense for me to not stress myself. So that worked out wonderfully. Something else you want to do is register for the frequent flyer program that the airline has. Whatever airline, they call it different things with the different airlines. So you want to make sure you do that, because once you've accumulated a number of points, you can now use those points to pay for 1 or 2 trips here and there. I just recently redeemed some of my points for a flight to Southwest to Minnesota, and I only paid $64 for that trip. So those are the benefits of having points. So you want to do that, okay? And then number 8, this is travel insurance. I personally have never bought travel insurance because if I'm traveling, I'm traveling. There's nothing that's going to change about it unless I go to heaven. In that case, I won't be mad, So I personally do not buy or have not had any reason to buy travel insurance. I don't know what the situation might be for you, but it may be something you might want to consider when you're making your travel plans. If they're not very set in stone, but you just want to get ahead of the curve, maybe buy travel insurance then. So let me know if you've ever used travel insurance and what were the situations or the scenario where you benefited from having the insurance, okay? Because that's I feel some way because of travel car insurance, because whenever I rent a car, I also do a separate travel car insurance, and it's like $11 per day. And at the end of the trip, I'm like, so I did not bash this car. So you mean to tell me that my whatever amount I paid is gone? It's gone. So I personally do not buy travel insurance. Plus, there's safeguards with my credit card or with the card that I used to pay for the ticket on the ticket, and there's also travel safeguards from the airline themselves and from the government. So those are enough for me. I don't know about you. 9, and you must have been wondering, when is she going to talk about the important things? Where can you find flights? Personally, my favorite place to find a flight is Google Flights, because they just aggregate all of the cheap flights for me, and I can just quickly, very easily search between different airports in different cities, because sometimes I live in South Bend, but sometimes I have to go to Chicago to catch a flight because it's cheaper. And so ease of checking different places very easily and very swiftly is one of the reasons why I choose Google Flights. Before I moved to Indiana, I used to live in Texas, and I would always very religiously fly with Southwest, because those 2 free checked-in bags were a catch, because I was always moving around with bags upon bags upon bags. So those 2 free checked-in bags with Southwest was a very huge attraction for me. So depending on what your interests are, if you're moving around a lot at this moment and you need those free 2 checked bags, definitely check out Southwest. But otherwise, Google Flights is the biggest place. It's just such a blessing. God bless the people that made it, in Jesus' name. Google Flights, all right. And then there's also like student websites where they're supposed to give you discounts, like Student Universe, other flight discounts websites include Hopper. I've checked those things, and I don't think that I'm not sure about the discounts that they really offer, because any flight that I find on Google Flights is also usually the cheapest for my budget. Number 10, you want to check the weather for the duration of your trip, and this will also inform what you're packing on the trip. So you don't want to be caught unawares. You don't want to think it's going to be cold and then it ends up being very sunny. You don't want to think it's going to be sunny and then it ends up raining all day. So those are some of the things that you want to check before you even head out the door. All right. So those are my main 10 tips, but I have 3 extra tips that are by the way. So you can stop watching now if you do not need those 3 extra tips. All right. So number 1 is airport food. Airports have some great food, and I don't know, it just feels nice to eat at an airport. Before I used to be like, oh, I don't want to spend money at an airport, the food is expensive, but please, you only travel once. So airport food is always in my budget. Whenever I travel, I always try to go somewhere that I haven't been before. That's a lie. I think the last time I went to, thank God it's Friday in ATL. So I just like airport food. I like to eat at the airport. And that's another reason why you want to go early, so you can eat before your flight. Number 2, you want to plan ahead for your travels, so you're not booking too close to your dates when it's expensive. So for instance, it's Thanksgiving coming up soon. If you wanted to find really affordable Thanksgiving tickets, then you should have been looking for flights maybe like in May or like in April. Then those would have been cheaper than what they are now. So always plan ahead and save if you need to, but plan ahead when you're booking a ticket. And then finally, going by plane is not the only way you can travel. You can do a road trip. And those are some of the easiest ways to travel on a budget, okay? So if you're in, for instance, South Bend, Indiana, there's Chicago very close by to me. There's Indianapolis. There is Grand Rapids, Michigan, very close to me. These are all places I can drive with a car. So if they're within 1 to 3 hours of driving distance from you, I'd advise you that you could go there with the car, and then you want to make sure that your car is in peak condition so it doesn't break down on the road, that your gas is filled up. If you can go with friends, that would be best, to share all of the other expenses from rooming, boarding, food, all of that. So road tripping, planning ahead, and enjoying airport food. Those are 3 extra tips for you. You're welcome. Those are all my tips. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what stood out to you and what you didn't know that you now know, and how you're going to use the tips from these videos when next you travel. So let me know in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe, and let me know what you want me to talk about next, okay? Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week. Bye.